ladies and gents, and welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the Beaufighter VIc. Don't look so surprised. I did say I was going to do more War Thunder content. I'm just looking for more fun, and this thing is most certainly fun. So the Beaufighter VIc is an Era 2 Battle Rating 3 heavy fighter on the British side. It is armed with 420mm Hispano cannons with 960 rounds of ammunition across all four, and a 7.7mm Browning machine gun in the back that is almost worthless. So what do you need to know about the Beaufighter VIc? Well, it's not a precision aircraft, so to speak. This plane is better described as a sledgehammer. Now, you would have heard me say in the past that going head-on is the absolute worst thing you can do in the majority of aircraft in War Thunder. In fact, almost all of them, it is the last thing you should be using as a tactic. There is, however, a very limited number of aircraft where going on a head-on is actually sort of viable, and the Beaufighter is one of them. Open up at just inside of 1.2 kilometers, dead hit to the center of the Yak-9, engine on fire and destroyed. The plane's control surfaces have been damaged, and he will be out of this match in just a few more seconds. And there he goes, first kill. Now, I did actually take a hit there, and I'm not entirely sure how. Either the damage reporting system was a little slow displaying the damage, or somehow he managed to shoot me when I was more than 90 degrees off his gun's angle, but doesn't matter. Still alive, moving to engage a second Yak-9. Now, the Beaufighter is a bloody good aircraft, but it does have a few restrictions on what it could do. It is a piss-poor pursuit aircraft. It is not incredibly fast. And that Yak-9's on fire, so now we need to bank out and find a new target. Anyways, as I was saying, it doesn't climb very well. It doesn't dive particularly well if you get it to altitude. It's not incredibly fast at altitude, and it's not incredibly maneuverable at altitude either. So what are the Beaufighter's advantages? Well, it's a low-altitude, heavy fighter attacker hybrid. This thing is incredibly maneuverable below 5,000 feet. Once it gets above that, it loses a lot of its turning capability, but below 5,000 feet, this thing will turn with some of the best aircraft in War Thunder. It's a little slow on the roll rate, but its elevation authority is amazing. Moving in on a P-63 and a Yak-1 that's in the area. Now, I actually consider the P-63 to be the more dangerous aircraft, but it's also just coming out of a dive and is moving at high speed. I'm never going to catch it. The Yak-1 is on the deck. If I can eliminate the Yak-1, that's one more fighter I don't have to worry about, and hopefully the P-63 will come down here with me to play. Now, I'm not superbly accurate with my shooting here, but with 960 rounds of ammunition total when you start the match, you can afford to spray and pray just a little in the Beaufighter. It has plenty to spare. So I'm actually inside of my gun convergence on the aircraft at the moment, but I picked the lead, set the left wing on fire. Now all I've got to do is follow him through. Now I'm just doing a shoulder check at the moment, and I've noticed that P-63 has turned around and is closing in on me. So I just had to make sure the Yak-1 went down and its fire didn't go out. And then I'm going to turn back around. This is the easiest way to deal with the P-63, is to line it up and go nose on as well. Opening up the guns. Now, you will have noticed that I hesitated on shifting my aim slightly there for a second, and that was because that P-63A5 on our team just flew directly through my line of fire and got himself critted. I still took out the enemy P-63, but because I hesitated on shifting those guns just for a split second, due to that P-63 crossing my guns, I took significantly more damage than I should have in that pass. Still, the plane is continuing to fly well, so just shoulder checking at the moment, seeing if there are any more enemies in the area. There is an enemy P-63 engaged with an F4U about 4 kilometers to my 6 and increasing range. I'm not easily going to be able to get back up to him, so what I'm doing is increasing range on the fight to give me a little bit of room to drag this thing back to altitude, ready for whatever plane comes next. And that's when I take a first shot. The skillless P-63 pilot that crossed my guns before has decided that I am entirely responsible for his complete lack of ability to fly, and has decided to try and team kill me in his P-63. Thankfully, he also demonstrates a complete inability to shoot. I bounce a couple of small caliber rounds off my wings, all of his major ammunition missed, and he just continues flying in the other direction. At this point, however, I'm turning back to engage the actual enemy P-63, the aircraft that you would think that the people on the blue team may want to kill, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. I suppose he did do me a favour in yet again demonstrating one of the other advantages of the Beaufighter, its durability. This thing is a flying tank. So that P-63 is 2.7 above, and he doesn't appear to be diving on anyone. He's just lurking around up there looking for targets of opportunity. That PE-2, however, is sitting smack bang in the middle of my optimal combat zone, and the Beaufighter is more than well armed enough to pull apart a Peshka. So just over 5 kilometers out and closing, so far the team's doing exceptionally well, although I am slightly concerned that the enemy P-63 does appear to have altitude on the entirety of our team at the moment. I actually do want to give a shout out to Scumdog1, the pilot of the enemy P63. He does an incredible job this entire match, and shows some really good tactical play, and I'll point it out as we go along. The first things first, just closing in on this Peshka. Nothing particularly special about the first pass, just rattle off the guns for a nice solid hit, force the plane to bank over a little bit, fall in on the tail. The Beaufighter can take shots from the Peshka's guns and survive fairly well. I'm not planning on leaving the Peshka alive long enough to do any real damage anyway. So there we go, wings split off, target on fire, bank over hard left, and look who's coming in again. Yes, that's right, once again it's Mr. Skillless trying to sneak up on me and team kill me from behind. And for the second time he displays a remarkable lack of ability to shoot. Oh, but don't worry ladies and gents, the hilarity of our little P63A over here isn't quite done yet. So sitting on 4 kills, I decided the smart move would be to head back to base at this point. I'm down to 186 rounds of cannon ammunition. This is more than what most planes get, but it's still not as much as I would like, especially not in an aircraft like the Beaufighter. And it seems our little friend in the P63A5 had exactly the same idea, mainly because he sprayed all his ammunition at me and failed to hit anything. And then he does this. He's landed on the runway, rolled it over the end, rolled it down the cliff, and then killed himself at the bottom of the mountain. But of course, I got the penalty for it. So as I bring the Beaufighter into land to show our P63 pilot exactly how easy it is to do, I'm going to do a little bit of a recap here. First things first, he displayed a total lack of situational awareness and flying ability, flying through the tracer rounds of an aircraft like the Beaufighter. He then tried to team kill a Beaufighter, a fairly slow and extremely large aircraft in comparison to a P63, twice, and failed to pull it off both times, demonstrating a total lack of ability to shoot. He then tries to land and demonstrates a total inability to be able to land an aircraft without killing himself, and I get penalised for it. War Thunder, fix your shit. So anyways, with that little tow rag removed from the match, we can now actually concentrate on finishing off the enemy team. And as I'm beginning to throttle up the Beaufighter and clear the end of the runway, of course Scumdog1 shows up in the P63. Now you would think he would be over here to vulture the runway. That's what the majority of players could do, which is why I was in such a rush to get off the runway to begin with. But that's not what he's exactly about at all at the moment. He knows it's not safe to do so. There's a Beaufighter taking off that's got 4 kills, that's dangerous enough at low altitude, but he's also got F4Us coming in on the runway, a Spitfire coming in the runway, and he's about to be engaged by a P38G. Now the combination of all these aircraft so close together, it's just not safe for him to move in on the runways. However, the Spitfire and the F4U are clearly heading in for a landing. I've obviously just taken off, and there is one guy still on the deck. The P38 has also broken away from the P63 and is actually beginning to return towards the runway as well. Everybody's going for landing, and Scumdog1 saw it. Now at the moment this fight is 5 to our favour. So the P63 is clearing off into the distance and is about to break out past 7 kilometres, and we're going to lose sight of him. The P38, as I said, is heading back towards the runway for a landing. I'm unsure or not whether or not he's actually damaged at this point, but he's clearly going back for ammunition. Now quickly tabbing through and checking the scores, I actually noticed we dropped to 4 aircraft at this point, so one of the planes that was on the ground already either didn't get a repair or jayed out. Now at this point my Aussie sense was tingling. P63s would normally hang around and try and vulture the planes when they come into land. Scumdog backed off, and we're still missing one enemy aircraft and we don't know where it is or what it is. Since Scumdog backed off, all of our planes are now on the deck. I'm the only one in the air, so I decided to hang around and fly cap for the runway. And that turned out to be exactly the right play. It didn't take too long for Scumdog to come back. Again, he is holding altitude at about 8,000, 9,000 feet at the moment, so he is well above everybody. But the missing plane was a PE-3 fully loaded with bombs heading in on the runway. Now our Spitfire has managed to clear the deck and is moving straight in on the PE-3. I'm moving to intercept it as well. However, our F4U and our P38G are both still sitting on the runway at this point. Take the lead as the PE-3 passes. Good strong hit, no criticals that I noticed. However, the Spitfire displays why only some aircraft are good at the head-on game and gets himself killed by the PE-3's guns. However, the damage I did seem to be crippling. PE-3 goes down and he's out, kill number 5. And that is of course an ace in a day in a Beaufighter against the Russians. However, we're not quite done yet. Scumdog1 is still at altitude, floating around in his P63. And our fight is now a 2-on-1. So what happened? Well, our Spitfire obviously got shot down heading on the Peshka. but the Peshka coming in on approach to the runway forced our US Marine Corps Corsair to J out. This leaves just my Beaufighter and the P-38G to my 6. The P-38 is now up, and he seems to recognise exactly what the issue is at the moment. The P-63 has taken damage from the base AAA, but it still holds a significant energy advantage over both of us. The P-38 needs to get to altitude, so he's climbing in the opposite direction away from this fight. Meanwhile, I'm trying to turn around underneath this P-63 and keep his attention. So I'm playing the role of the bait here, just turning underneath him, trying to monitor where he is. I can't actually get to his altitude, I cannot engage him, but I can use the Beaufighter's low altitude turning ability to constantly stay directly below him. If he wants to come down and kill me, he's got to surrender his altitude advantage to the P-38 to do it. And those few passes he made is exactly what he did. The P-38 has managed to make altitude with the P-63, he's moved into engage, and there is the killing blow and the last shot of the match. So a quick shout out to Cleberson and the P-38G for seeing exactly what was going on and making the right choice exactly when he needed to, and a shout out to Scumdog1 who was making all the right choices, was just caught in a bad position. Good flying to both of you and good fight. Let's go check out the results. So, first place for the team with 5 kills, and we've got a few awards here. We've got Multi-Strike X2, Fighter Rescuer X2, Ground Strike Rescuer X2, Avenger, Professional X4, Shadow Strike Streak X3, Win Streak X3, The Punisher, Survivor, The Best Squad, and Terror of the Sky. 32,600 Silver Lions and 3,191 research points. I also unlocked the engine injection, which Gaijin recently took off the aircraft, which means this was not a spaded aircraft when I pulled off this match. With a premium account, this would have been a 60,000 credit match and 6,382 research points. So, the Beaufighter 6. Tough as nails, absolutely brutal with its guns, and as about as subtle as a sledgehammer to the face. You can see why this is the aircraft that Australia decided to choose to convert into the Mark 21s a few years later. I know they've been long renowned in arcade as being absolute clubbing machines for a long time, but in realistic they've always been not quite as devastating. But if you happen to see one in combat, don't underestimate it, and do not engage it in a low altitude dogfight. It will destroy you. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.